This place looks great on it. Well, it used to look great on the outside, but on the inside, it's what you make of it. I mean, you have dancers, you have singers, you have people that can draw, people that like to make music. I mean, this place is it's pretty good for like if you want to escape from your life. But then there's certain people who just want to make it a hunting ground, if you will. They think, oh well, I get picked on out here. I figure I can pick on somebody in here.
For decades, South Philadelphia High School had been a hotbed of violence. In recent years, student aggression had become increasingly targeted towards Asian immigrant students. This is the story of one of those incidents.
It was really tense, the relationship between like an Asian student and other student of other races. And I really felt uncomfortable going to school every day because I didn't know like maybe I would be attacked anytime and on the day that I went to. So it was really hard to imagine like I can graduate from that school.
I heard my friend tell me that this guy got attacked, get jumped, or he get busted on the line, or he get being cursed, or someone smacked him in the hallway.
He was just telling me like this kid was talking about how, you know, violence is an everyday occurrence in his school. He can't do anything about it. He just needs to keep his head down and stay out of trouble until he graduates, right?
This was a school in distress. It was clear that for any student, it was a hazardous place to be, but for Asian students in particular, it was extremely dangerous.
I was scared. We all started running.
I was dragged down the stairs by my hair.
They broke my nose. I had to get surgery on it
twice.
They
ran to us and hit us. It hurt our bodies.
Us.
It also hurt our hearts. Boys and girls.
We
got
felt
attacked.
unsafe about staying at school.
The principal was a block away from where they were
We
beaten
got
up.
attacked from behind.
We suffered a lot to get to America. We didn't come here to fight.
"30 to 40 students ran toward the back door of the cafeteria, and then I thought they were going out of the school, but they turned out to attack the Chinese student in the back of the line, and they punched and they kicked them, and like really badly. And there was a non-Asian student like picked up the trash can and like attempted to prove that to us.
Right at the corner of Broad and Snyder, full of students, non-Asian, and they start running toward us. And it's really that moment you don't know what to do. I mean.
We received a call from our friends saying that another group of all Vietnamese students was attacked. 6 of them were girls, so they were now in hospital and they didn't know what to do.
Where is the administration? Where is the assistant principals? Where is that level of accountability for their safety?
We were really upset, and it somehow made me feel really like afraid. We had a chance to talk to the school district and the school people, like including the principal, the 2 vice principals, and the regional superintendent. When we were trying to tell them how we felt and how we were scared of going back to school, they keep saying that just go back to school. Because, they said that they would make the school safe even before we said anything. And then we also noticed that the head of the security fell asleep when we were trying to tell them the story. And also the principal was playing with her phone and smiling and like shaking her head. I don't know. she seemed like she didn't even care about our safety.
We were seeing not only just increasing levels of violence and frequency of violence that were happening against Asian students at the school, but also that there was just this kind of willful indifference from the school district.
With their concerns continuing to go unaddressed by school administration, dozens of Asian American students decided to boycott South Philadelphia High School. The boycott lasted 8 days.
I think that once the boycott happened and all of the media attention, I think that the school suddenly became very defensive.
There was like willful action on their part to create a divisive, polarizing, hostile atmosphere towards the students who had raised these concerns. And on a level where, you know, students were retaliated against, students were scapegoated, students who were victims of violence were actually blamed and expelled from the school for it.
When I heard about a group of black students beating up on Asian immigrant students, my first reaction was not that it was racist, because really these kids, whether they're, you know, whether we call them perpetrators or victims or target of violence, they are from the same economic environment. They are poor working class, from poor working class families. So for me to believe that they can exert institutional power over the other group, I can't believe that.
Not just the students' fault, because they were also victims of like the institutional violence of the school and the school district indifference and irresponsibility. So we know that what we are fighting, who we are fighting against was not the students themselves, but the school district and the school officials.
So from December 3rd, 2009 up until May of 2010, allegations of students, you know, being seriously hurt at the school, school employees mimicking students' accents in front of them and other students, you know, to a level that it was really shocking.
When that incident took place, kind of the untold story was the number of students, particularly from the African American segment of school, that said, that's not who we are. That's not who our school is, and actually offered to be escorts and buddy with the Asian students at the school that felt insecure and uncomfortable.
Young people need stability, and I think that stability needs to be shown in the administration at the school. Some of the programs that they're doing, they can't just be something that we do today because the news media is concerned about this issue.
One of the things that the school did in the aftermath of December 3rd was to try to do that type of stuff, you know, programming to bring students together. But it was the type of sort of empty program. So it's a lot of money and a lot of fun trips, but not facilitated, right? So they had this thing called the 50-50 Club, and I'll say it right on camera. The 50-50 Club was a ridiculous idea. And think about it, it's called 50-50, and literally 50 African Americans, 50 Asian Americans, put them on a bus, send them somewhere together. And they're not facilitating any actual conversation or dialogue. They're saying sit next to someone different from you and hope a relationship falls from that. And they spent money on that, and they called that a plan.
So oftentimes when these events take place, you know, we want to rush in a plethora of programs, a plethora of people, rather than stop and ask, you know, what do you students see are the problems that we have and what are the best ways to address them? The more that we can engage and involve them in the process will go a long way. A lot of times talking to them after this event took place, it's like all these adults are in our building, all these strangers are walking around. It didn't feel like home to them anymore because you had all these suits rolling around in the building.
They put in $700,000 worth of cameras and sent in more security guards and pretty much washed their hands of it. So, you know, to us, that was a pretty paltry response. You know, certainly ineffective. It had not worked before. It wasn't going to work in this particular case.
In January of 2010, the U.S. Department of Justice filed a complaint in federal district court.
after seeing all and interviewing so many different students, felt like we had a pretty good case to present to the U.S. Department of Justice. And so went to them with a civil rights complaint through their Equal Opportunities section. And we felt like we were not sure what would happen. You know, the Department of Justice has sometimes been a little bit of a scary organization for immigrants. We just felt like, you know, at some point we needed to file something formally, and the Department of Justice we felt was our strongest option.
You know, I looked at what the people did then. They just took a page out of the civil rights movement of the 60s. While people have the misgivings about the lawsuit, I just know as an African-American person that grew up in the civil rights movement about the validity and the power of such a statement. It cast a negative light on the district and the school by doing that, but when you don't shed light in places that need light shed into it, then you now become exposed.
Working with the U.S. Department of Justice was actually a very rewarding process where we felt like the DOJ was very responsive, had certainly took a tremendous amount of testimony from individuals, and what we knew was the likely outcome was that the district would work on a settlement agreement. And the settlement agreement would be a detailed document about how to improve things at the school.
How did South Philadelphia High School get to this point? Are there explanations, or was this all just an unfortunate incident?
South Philadelphia is a very diverse place, and many different neighborhoods, many different communities, many different ethnicities reside in South Philadelphia. So when you take all of those different backgrounds and put them all together into one school, you have to have some type of process for working together and engaging all those different backgrounds in the same building.
The neighborhood high school is the place where students, for the first time, encounter a very different set of experiences than they've had before.
Immigrants or refugees, both undocumented and documented immigrants, are the most vulnerable members of any community. 100% of the kids, of the students who were beaten up and targeted for violence were Asian immigrant, right? So even if it was not racial, it was definitely anti-immigrant.
But we are targeted mostly because of our language, and a lot to do with our skin color too. So, you know, you came to a new country, you don't speak the language, and you look different from everyone else. Not just the skin, but, you know, the setting that you're on. You don't know anything, you know places to go. You sort of like lost in the environment, and it's sort of like you stand out badly to other people.
There's not familiarity with varieties of languages. Why do you speak all these different languages? I've never heard that. South Philadelphia High School does a very poor job of doing something like that, welcoming students, orientating them to the school, feeling like here's a whole school community, let's get to know one another first.
Because when we keep groups apart and we don't do any explanations or any demonstrations, then the mythology takes place. We have the culture and the language thing, then we had an adolescent thing. That even if you had a homogeneous group, you could have conflict just because of the adolescent brain is still in the construction. So you got the adolescent brain, you got the culture misinformation, you got the language information. It's a perfect storm.
The economic recession or depression that we're currently in adds to the climate of impatience and scapegoating. So when you've lost your job, or your father or your mom lost your job, or you know, gets pay cuts and things like that, even if you knew that your immigrant neighbor next door has nothing to do with that, they may be the easiest person for you to blame.
There are sort of deep-rooted causes to why there is such tension between students in these underfunded and under-resourced urban schools.
South Philadelphia High School was chosen as a test case to receive additional funding for ESL, or English as a Second Language.
The reason why so many students are kind of concentrated in these particular high schools, and they're all neighborhood high schools, is because of the system of school choice that we've created in Philadelphia. So one thing we know is that with this expanded options of choice, immigrant kids are generally left out. So for example, parochial schools and private schools generally don't offer ESOL programming, period. The only places where we have a full battery of ESOL services or ELL services for immigrant students is at the neighborhood high school.
A 2010 report released by the Philadelphia School District indicates that only 57% of freshmen graduated 4 years after starting high school. The statistics are even more startling when considering the fact that 46% of black males do not graduate. A study conducted by PublicSchoolReview.com found that in the area around South Philadelphia High School, only 11% of adults over the age of 25 have a college degree.
The death of community centers, libraries being shut down, community centers who are still opens on limited hours, pools have closed, playgrounds are more like areas of fighting rather than for a family to relax, for students to play. There is a draining of resource in this neighborhood, in this community.
These are young people who are growing up, who are not only just learning, reading, writing, and arithmetic, as my grandmother would say, but they're learning how to be young citizens in a society where some of them, they don't necessarily know where the next meal is coming from, or there might not be stability in the household. So we do need our schools to be able to deal with those kind of issues and help create and cultivate well-rounded, positive young people.
What are the issues that impact the lives of the young people that we service every day? And understand, from that, like I said, when you look at the issues that impact the African American community and the violence that they have to overcome walking to and from school, because many of the issues that we have in our school start from issues outside of the building.
What did markedly change was the arrival of a new principal, who's the current principal right now, Otis Hackney. And what he brought was a spirit of collaboration, a spirit of possibility. He didn't carry baggage about what had happened before, but he wasn't going to ignore what had happened either. I think he had a lot of openness, a lot of compassion, and a real need to be able to make the school safe for everybody.
So there's a lot of work to be done, so I'm not saying that I've accomplished anything, but I can say that we're off to a good start. And so, it's a thrilling journey, and I'm looking forward to every step of it.
On December 15, 2010, exactly a year after the students of South Philadelphia High School ended their historic 8-day boycott, the Justice Department announced a settlement agreement with the School District of Philadelphia.
It's a very thoughtful document, I think, that, it talks about crisis responses for victims and victims of violence. It talks about how to create a better culture at the school, which might include multiracial dialogue and curricula, creating space for people to talk, as well as, just putting up policies that say, don't hurt other people, and developing sort of like a good kind of checklist. So if something were to happen, then these things would start to click into place. It's not a perfect document, but it was a really strong way to start a dialogue about what we could do to improve what was happening at the school. Because something gets passed down in a court and there's all this paperwork on it doesn't mean that it lives in the hallways of a school. So it's up to us to really kind of push that forward, and you know, we would need to be as active as we have been in the past in order to make sure that that happens at the school. So, you know, it's still, this is sort of like not the end of our work, it's the beginning of the work, because the real story is whether South Philadelphia High School can turn itself into a different school with a different set of cultures, with a different set of values.
Moreover, though, it can't just be something done at South Philadelphia High School. We have to understand that we have several other high schools across our city where there's still tension between young people, and we need to provide the same kind of services that we're providing at South Philadelphia at those schools. One of the things that I've always noticed is that we're a lot more similar than we are different, but the perception of our differences keeps us from exploring our similarities.
And specifically, our laws prohibit discrimination on the basis of certain protected categories.
Determined to prevent incidents like those at South Philadelphia High School from happening in the future, in January 2010, the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations held a series of 11 public hearings as part of its mandate to address intergroup conflicts and claims of discrimination.
I contacted over 60 agencies, people, and programs in the city of Philadelphia. Nobody helped me. And I think that helped.
130 witnesses testified, and an additional 40 witnesses submitted written statements. The Commission's official report, released on March 1, 2011, found that intergroup conflicts are a system-wide problem, not specific to South Philadelphia High School. Some of the report's recommendations include implementing uniform policies and procedures promoting positive intergroup relationships, requiring principals to introduce programs that create a community of respect within their schools, and providing specialized training and support to school staff to help them achieve safe and cooperative school environments.
That when young people understand that the struggles that they're individually dealing with is being dealt with by a group, and that the struggle of that group is very similar to struggles in other groups that are like not their language or race, and when they realize that they have a lot more power if they work together, you know, this example in South Philly, if it happens, which we're working towards, could be an example for all of South Philly and for all of Philadelphia, if it really works.
With the federal government being the watchdog over this whole process, that at its conclusion, South Philadelphia High School is going to be a model not only for the city, but for the country in terms of what high school should look like in the United States of America. So I'm very optimistic about what the outcome of this lawsuit will be. It will be a school that the students can be proud of and feel comfortable in attending.
When incidents like these happen, I would hope that we don't rush to judgment, we don't rush to point fingers, that we don't rush to criticize, but that we do rush to the aid of our young people. When we have young people who are acting out in a violent manner, we need to rush to the aid of our victims, because we have to protect them. That is our responsibility. But we can't throw away the other young people either. And we must find out what's going on, what's the issues, what's the problems, and try to find out how we can provide them with services as well. So while we're dealing with our victims, we also have to deal with the young people who are perpetrating these crimes. Because the bottom line is, if we don't deal with them now, 10 years from now, we'll have to deal with them when we're putting them into our penal institutions. No child is a throwaway child, and they're all our children, all our young people. And most importantly, they are our city's most valuable resource.
Everybody just needs to open up their eyes. Look in the mirror at yourself and see, like, oh, what am I doing wrong? What am I doing wrong? And what can I do to change? You understand? If everybody does that, I swear we will have a better America, we will have a better world.